Hey, what is up, everybody, and welcome to the Get Your Bell Rung Football Podcast. He is Kevin Reynolds. I am Bobby Wall, and we are here to talk all things football and hit you with some takes that might rattle you up a bit. On tonight's show, we are going to discuss the Week 12 that was in the NFL. We are going to talk about a poor, poor decision for a coach's firing that just happened yesterday. We're going to talk about some possible open seats in the coaching carousel as the season comes to an end. Look at the current playoff picture in the NFL, and then, as always, our starts of the week. But Kevin Reynolds, first and foremost, how you doing?
Hanging in there, buddy. Thanksgiving was excellent. Ate a lot of food at my daughter's little family birthday. Other than that, wasn't too eventful of a weekend. It was cold here. I got all the leaves out of the yard. It took some time. Oh, did a little fire. You know how I roll. It's cold here today. It's like 27 degrees with 40-mile-an-hour winds. It's wonderful.
It's a little chilly here, but it is certainly not that cold. Um, this is a fun time for me. My son is 5, pushing 6, couple months he'll be 6, and it's such an awesome stage to be in. There's a lot of firsts. Like this summer, he caught his first fish. First day of kindergarten was this year, and then this past week for Thanksgiving was his first day going hunting. He was so excited to go with myself and my dad, and it was just an awesome experience walking through the woods with my dad the way I did when I was his age. Now he's doing it with us. Obviously, when you have a 5-year-old in the woods, you're not going to see anything. There's far too much talking and arm waving and kicking of sticks. But it was just a really cool experience, and I love it.
He seems like more of a sentimental folk than you. How is he with the murdering of animals? I mean, I'm all for murdering animals. Animals are terribly delicious. But how is he with that? Or is it he's young enough that you can just he understands how it works?
Um, well, we did not get anything that day, but my dad did go back a couple days later and got a buck. Maddox was not there for the actual shooting of it, but we brought it back. We hung it. He saw it. Not didn't seem too perturbed.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, so we're actually going to go again. He wants to go this Saturday again. So we'll be back out there in the woods. We'll see.
So
We're gonna
you
be going to our hunting camp this year. So we have a blind and he'll have a little chair to sit in. So hopefully we can keep him occupied a little longer.
and this weekend with your dad, you went in West by God.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
How old does a youngster have to be to fire a weapon in West by God?
That's a good question. I would guess at birth, West Virginia would allow that.
Okay.
Um, but no, seriously, I don't know. I know you have to take a hunter safety course to be able to carry your own weapon. But
I think
I'm not
most
sure how
states
old
it's
you have to be.
12, isn't it? But I assume some are probably a little lower than that.
I believe you. All right. Well, let's get down to business here. The Carolina Panthers, the 1-11 Carolina Panthers, go out and they fire head coach Frank Reich and assistant coaches Deuce Staley and Josh McCown. What are your thoughts on this move, Kevin?
Well, I texted you right away how David Tepper has replaced Dan Snyder as the worst owner in all of professional sports. Just another guy who's really rich, more power to him, obviously a brilliant person, but knows nothing about football and have fun continuing to bury your own team, your own investment. I mean, I guess he doesn't really care. He'll swim in a pile of money regardless. It's fans that have to deal with it, players that don't want to go there. You bring this guy in, give him this multi-year contract. You completely handcuff him with the worst roster in the NFL. You handpick the quarterback that he didn't want. Then when things don't go well, you blame it on him. I mean, and he can. That's his prerogative. He's the owner. He can do what he wants. He can fire everybody if he wants to. But if you ever want to win, you need to do, we've talked about this before, the Steinbrenner model from the early 90s when he finally realized, you know what, I'm rich, but I don't know anything about baseball. I'm just going to start signing the checks. And boom, you have championship after championship, a team that's at least competitive every year. This guy, like Snyder, just doesn't seem to get it. So have fun continuing to lose. And apparently the two like Deuce Staley getting fired, That was the new head coach, an interim head coach. They gave him the power to fire his staff. What
Deuce
is that?
Deuce Staley and Josh McCown have both had NFL head coaching interviews.
Yeah, but this
Well, I don't
this
know. You got three
nobody
possible head coaches in your team, and
guy,
you fire them.
wide receiver coach, whoever it is, I don't even remember the guy's name. He fired them.
Yeah, that was
Dysfunction.
very shocking to me. And you and I both come from pretty passionate fan bases. Obviously, Philadelphia fans are, their reputation precedes itself. But
They're battery throwers.
Carolina has very passionate fans as well.
Do
The
they?
problem is they just can't get it to be the Panthers. I mean, you want to get a fight started in a bar around here, go talk trash about Duke or UNC or NC State, and these guys will get all fired up. I'm sure they would be that way if the Panthers were even close to relevant. But it's a pretty sad time down here talking to the Panthers fans, and they're up in arms a bit.
Oh, it sucks when you expect to lose every week. Home games, against terrible teams, and you still are always the underdog. And then you end up losing games that they're not even competitive. Even games that are sort of close in score with them aren't really competitive. There at no point does anybody think, oh boy, the Panthers might pull this one out. Who did they even beat? I don't even remember at this point. It was earlier in the season.
That's a that's a good question. I'll look it up. Um, but first, Adam Schefter estimated that there will be 7 to 10 new head coaches this coming NFL season.
I think it's going to
I
become the new norm, dude. Every
I
year.
I, I
What have you
think
done
that's
for me lately?
I think 10 is a bit heavy here. We know too the Raiders and the Panthers. Who are the other five? I wrote down some teams, and you tell me uh more yes or more no. Which side of the ledger are you on as far as getting a new head coach to them?
Yeah.
Washington Commanders.
100% new coach. No
Okay.
chance Rivera stays.
Man, I don't say 100, but I'll give it 80%.
99.98.
I like
You're
it.
right.
I
There are
like
no absolutes.
I like that. The Los Angeles Chargers.
Unless they pull something out of their butts here the rest of the way, 90% chance Staley's going. They've got to quit wasting a guy who's one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league.
They are 4-7 and last in their division behind the Raiders,
I know.
who
It
already fired their head coach.
makes no sense. Staley needs to go. He's overwhelmed. His little stick was cool at first because it was different. It no longer is different. The whole league has figured them out, and Herbert is just, dude. Look at that roster. Should that team be 4-7?
Look at that roster over the last 15 years. This is the most underperforming team year after year that I can maybe ever remember.
They were cursed in the mid 2000s there, when they fired Marty Schottenheimer after a 14-2 season because he lost in the divisional round of the playoffs. And you fire a guy who just went 14-2, they haven't lived up to any kind of expectations ever since, and that's what you get. It's football.
How about when they got rid of Drew Brees? It certainly didn't help anything.
I mean, it made sense a little bit. They weren't sure how his shoulder was going to be, and luckily his shoulder held out long enough because, as you've probably read, he says he can't really use his right arm anymore. He even just to throw with
Right.
his kids, he has to throw left-handed. So maybe the Chargers were on to something. They just jumped the gun about 10 years too early.
How about Chicago?
That's a tough one. I don't know, man. I'll go 50%. Only because, again, I think the owners, they understand that they have no roster. They got 2 picks coming up. Man, there's gonna be enough changeover. I don't know. That's a tough one.
That makes me move my ledger maybe 60%. I think they may get a new head coach
Yeah.
simply because they're going to have their pick of the litter. They have the number 1 overall pick in the draft. They can get any quarterback they want to. They're going to get another high draft pick,
And I
and
wouldn't.
it's
I'd
the
stick,
defense.
I'd
The
stick
the
with them.
Bears defense. It's getting better. They got some young talent there. DJ Moore, obviously, they got. He'll be there for a few more years. It's enticing. I know that.
It is. I'd stick. I'm going to go on record right now. Unless he just falls off a cliff, I would stick with Fields. Take Marvin Harrison Jr. first. Now you have him and DJ Moore. That's something we can really build with. Unless you could really take somebody to school on a trade for
A
Justin
wide
Fields.
receiver at 1 overall.
Have you watched the man play?
Of course.
There's
And
no doubt he is the best player in college football.
that would be very interesting for them to do. I don't know if a wide receiver's ever gone number one overall. That'd be good to look into.
It would be. It had to have
How
at
about
some point.
old Billy Belichick and the Patriots? He's sticking
Going,
around?
going.
Oh, 99.8 or what, 99.98, whatever.
97.5 that he's going.
Okay.
And I
I
think
like it.
it'll be, he'll pretend otherwise. I think it'll be a mixture of things. I think Kraft's ready to go. Belichick's ready to go. The fan base is ready to go. The players are certainly ready for him to go. Go somewhere else, see if it works out, or just retire.
How about the NFC South division leading Atlanta Falcons? Are they going to make the playoffs and then fire their head coach?
I, I pray. Right.
Unleash Bijan.
I may set up a small altar to Bijan
Joe
Robinson
Boo? Are you
this
going to
year
bring Joe Boo in?
and see what I can do to help the fantasy gods, the NFL gods, steer the Falcons in the right direction to get rid of the worst coach in the NFL.
Wow. Bold statement here. Last one for me. I thought this one I kind of, I don't know, went back and forth with. How about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? They have Todd Bowles there. He's an old retread. I know you despise retreads.
I do.
And honestly, he's not, it's not exciting. I mean, I like Todd Bowles. I think he's a good coach. I think he's a great defensive coordinator.
That's it. He's a great coordinator.
So what do you think of what about the, I mean, because I haven't heard anyone mention Tampa Bay at all. This is just me throwing something out there.
I don't know. That's the problem with the NFC South is they're teams that nobody even cares about, so you don't really talk about them a lot. 4-7 with the roster like that, they should be better, especially playing that division. He's on the hot seat. He's got a chance of being going. A lot of coaches do. I'm not even sure that Dayball will be back in New York.
Man, that'd be something to have him. I mean, he was the savior after last year.
He was, but fortunes change quickly in this league. There's no such thing anymore as any kind of loyalty to your coach, giving your coach a few years. You and I talk about this in the offseason. How many times do we say it this offseason? Well, we sure hope they give this guy an actual chance instead of firing him after 1 year, whether it's a quarterback, an offense coordinator, a head coach. These owners now want to win instantly because they know it's the difference between making $3 billion that year or $6 billion. So they want to win.
All right. Let me go through the current play. Oh, do you have any more besides Dable? Any
Nah,
that
not really.
strike your
I mean,
fancy?
there's a lot of guys that if you told me right now that between now and week 1 next year, half the head coach in the league would be different, it wouldn't surprise me at all. But if you also told me only 5 would be different, that wouldn't really surprise me either. I could make a case for at least 16 teams in the league to have a new head coach.
I don't think it's going to be that much, but
I don't
you
either.
tell
I'm
me
saying you
7 or
could
8, I'll
make
believe.
the case. This whole 7-10 prediction, I don't think it's off, and I think it's going to happen. It'll be more now the norm than the exception.
Which is a shame, man.
Yeah, it
That's a
sucks.
shame.
Because then this quarterback you draft in the first round has to have a new system every single
Yep.
year. So they never get a chance to really truly develop.
All right. Current playoff teams for the AFC: the Miami Dolphins, the Baltimore Ravens, Jacksonville Jaguars, 8-3. Jacksonville Jaguars, Kansas City Chiefs, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Cleveland Browns, and the Indianapolis Colts.
Yep.
Notice I did not say the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, the Bills
That
are still
is
at 10th.
shocking. I mean, if you go into the preseason, if you just said, after week 12, the Buffalo Bills are not in playoff contention, they're 500 right now, 6-6.
It's not pretty. They blew another game. For all intents and purposes, should have won the other day.
The New York Jets only have one more loss than Buffalo Bills. Think about that.
They do. They also have 2 less wins. Buffalo hasn't had their
Right.
bye yet, but no, they got work to do. It's an uphill battle because they could win out and still not make it. That would be unlikely at 11-6, but they're not going to win out anyway. We talked last week about their murderer's row schedule coming up. That game last week, I can't seriously say they should have won, but they had a very good chance of winning it. And you had to with that this schedule and the way things are shaping up. When you have a winnable game, you got to win it.
I
And
don't stand very often during football games, and I was standing for most of the second half of that Eagles Bills game.
that's a
That
little
was
weird.
intense.
Um,
Um,
I did watch most of the second half and all of the overtime. Yeah, I don't know. And anybody that blames that game on Josh Allen, you're just stupid. You're just an ignorant fool who knows nothing about football and should just shut up because that was 100% not his fault.
I agree. NFC playoff picture. The Eagles, the Detroit Lions, we mentioned the Atlanta Falcons, the San Francisco 49ers, Dallas Cowboys, Minnesota Vikings, and the Seattle Seahawks, which is interesting because if I'm not mistaken, Seattle plays Dallas here Thursday night.
But they do.
Interesting thing about those Cowboys is they have not beaten a team with a winning record at all this year. We talk about them smashing teams. Well, they're smashing the teams that deserve to be smashed. Not a single win against the team with the winning record. And we talked a couple weeks ago about the Eagles heading into their gauntlet of games. Well, right now, after this past week, they have Seattle, Eagles, Bills, the Dolphins, and the Lions. That's not an easy stretch there.
No, I think I saw somewhere they had the hardest strength of schedule left in the league.
Yeah,
At least three of them are at home, but I don't know how much will that help. Uh, don't know. I know they haven't been by the winning record. They kill everybody else. I don't know what to say about them. They're going to, I guess, show us their true colors over these next 6 games.
that they will. All right, let's dive into these games from the week. You good?
Certainly.
All right. Well, surprisingly, the first Thanksgiving Day game, the Green Bay Packers go into Detroit and win 29-22. The Lions, you can't do that. You're looking pretty good in your division, but I mean, you can't lose a game to the Packers.
At
Jordan
home,
Love, Jordan Love actually looked good. He has not looked good
he
very
looked
often.
great.
Yeah, he looked
He
pretty
didn't
good
look
in this
good. He
one.
looked great.
Yep. Jaden Reed, he's your boy for
He
some
is.
reason. Every time I see Jaden Reed, I think of you,
Yeah.
talking him up and then paying it off. And then Christian Watson, finally the breakout game that we wanted to see. 5 for 94 and a touchdown. First play from scrimmage, caught like a 50-yard bomb down the middle of the field. Near misses on a couple other plays. And here's my question to you. You had mentioned last week, 2 weeks ago, about Jaden Reed with Aaron Jones going down with an injury. He might be the running back. Why are we not doing that with Christian Watson? He's basically Cordero Patterson's 6'2", 220. Well, Christian Watson's 6'4", 210. They're very similar statures and very similar
My
athletic.
thought is the positions. They don't want to take him off the edge, the big guy running down the field, sprinting 100 miles an hour. Reed's just a slot guy. You can throw him in the backfield real quick and not have that big of a change to your offense. Taking Christian Watson off the edge way out wide is really altering things a bit.
Why can't we give him sweeps, reverse? I
I'm
mean,
with you. I mean, it doesn't hurt to
get the
put the
ball in
ball
this
in
guy.
his
He's
hands a
so
little bit.
athletic.
I don't know. Has he had a rush all year? Had
This year, I don't know. I know they did it
had two.
last year.
Two rushes for -4 yards.
Yeah, they did it last year though, and he definitely did it in college. And then
Was it
as for the
last year?
Lions, Goff kind of let you down.
He
David
did.
Montgomery
Wow.
did not. What?
I'm interrupting, but he last year had 7 rushes for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns. Still
I
not a
know.
lot, but it's more than two for -4.
Right. That's my question. I don't know why we're not doing that. The
I
Lions, David Montgomery, the workhorse, 15 for 71 and a touchdown. You expected more out of Jahmyr Gibbs. Unfortunately, did not get you double digits. Sam
James
Laporta
Cook.
had a nice game. And Amon Ra, the most boring 9 for 95 of all time.
It's just so crazy. The dude's 9 for 95, and it's like a letdown.
Ho hum.
So he's really become. You could make the argument outside of Tyreek, he's the most at least consistent receiver in the league. He might not have that same ceiling that maybe Metcalf has on any given week. Some of those guys, but his floor is so high.
Yeah. He's wide receiver 6 on the year, half point PPR.
Yeah, and he missed a game or two, didn't he?
He's gotten single digits in a game. I don't think ever. Not all year. He's been double digit points every single week except for week 5 that he did not play.
Oh, so he's only missed one game, and he's still number 6. and that was
Yeah,
against the Panthers. So you might have lit them up for 25.
yeah. What a man! This
He's
dude is
like
awesome.
he's like if like who is it? It's Cortland Sutton on steroids here. He has
Yeah,
the same thing, that same little wiggle room, except his is 6 points higher.
yeah. You're right. Moving on. The Cowboys smashed the Commanders. We said they beat up on bad teams. No one was good outside of Curtis Samuel, but I seriously doubt anybody started him on their fantasy teams. Dak Prescott dominated. CeeDee Lamb dominated. Tony Pollard again. Another nice game for Pollard. And Brandon Cooks. It's like every other game. He'll give you a little something.
I
He
so
did
wanted
find
to
the end
play
zone.
him last week, and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't pull the trigger.
Too much of a game. Well, you can't play him this week because this will be the odd week,
Oh yeah,
right? It's every other week. You can't.
yeah.
You gotta wait one more.
My dark throws are over, my friend.
Yeah. And that's it for that one, right? That was pointless.
The only thing I would say about it is this is embarrassing. Only, I guess, because they have the new ownership, they don't want to do anything rash. But Ron Rivera should have been fired before he got off the field. This is embarrassing. This was anybody that watched it, it wasn't this close. It
Yeah,
wasn't as
you're right.
close as 45-10. It could have been 75-10. They just really backed off. It was men up playing boys. It was just a straight up embarrassment for the Commanders. They didn't look like they're like an NFL team.
Speaking of embarrassment, the 49ers whooped up on division rival, the Seattle Seahawks. No one had 50 yards in this game. Zach Charbonnet came the closest with 47 yards on the ground. I guess if you add his 11 receiving yards, he passed 50 for total yards. But man, it was not good. They obviously didn't score a touchdown. And then as for the 49ers, Debo Samuel was awesome. Christian McCaffrey, he's he is the Cortland Sutton, Amon-Ra St. Brown, except he's 6 points higher than Amon-Ra
Yes.
St. Brown. He is just in a league of his own. 19 carries, 114 yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns, plus just for a little icing on top, 5 for 25. And then Brandon Ayuk, only 2 catches, but one of them did find its way to the end zone. So,
Yeah, they didn't have to throw a whole lot.
yeah,
The
another
whole
boring one.
game. They
It's
just basically ran. I mean, Elijah Mitchell had 7 carries.
before the Sunday games, there were quite a few blowouts. The Thanksgiving Day game, and then this one we're about to head to Miami taking out the Jets
I
34 to
want to
13.
interject there real quick. I don't know if you've
Yeah,
seen the latest Vegas odds to win the Super Bowl.
no, I haven't.
Who is number one?
Well, if you're saying that, I'm assuming it's not Philadelphia.
That's correct. And it
Those
is
are
the 49ers.
San Francisco. Well, this week's going to be a big one
And then
because
the
the
Chiefs. Eagles
49ers
are
come into
actually number
town.
3 right now.
That's all right. It's all right. Underdogs, man.
Yeah,
That's
none of
how
it
we won
means
the first one.
anything except for how much money you get if you put a bet on them. Once you're out
Right.
on the field, none of that stuff matters at all.
Uh, Somehow Garrett Wilson was still able to get you double-digit fantasy points, even with Tim Boyle at quarterback. His 4.1 fantasy points. My gosh, this
You know,
Jets
he had
team.
a touchdown at the very end of the game.
I know. Raheem Mostert got 2 scores on the ground for you. Tyreek Hill, 20 points in his sleep, and Jalen Waddle, 8 for 114. He's not scoring many touchdowns, but I'll take that with how much he's been struggling as far as fantasy goes. Um, man, I know we mentioned this many weeks ago, but I still feel bad for Jets fans. The amount of excitement they had coming into the season, only to have lose Aaron Rodgers on the third play from scrimmage or whatever it was, and this is not what you saw.
But I had this conversation with Two Nut. He comes over every day Thanksgiving afternoon. He brings my daughter's birthday cake because his wife makes it. Then we sit down and drink and watch the first game. If there are another position in the world, I don't even necessarily think it has to be sports related, that there's maybe only 12 to 16 competent people on earth that can actually do it.
That's it.
Quarterback
Well,
is maybe the NFL core is the hardest thing to be able to do competently in the world. That said, these GMs just suck. It shouldn't be that your quarterback goes down. I understand you're not going to just replace Aaron Rodgers. I get that. But your whole season shouldn't just be over 6 plays into week 1. You had to have some sort of a backup plan. This is just stupid. It's not even fun to watch. This game was dumb.
It's a rarity to win a Super Bowl with a quarterback that isn't great. Brad Johnson did it. Brent Dilfer with your Baltimore Ravens
Yeah.
did it. But that was because the GM built the team that way. And I'm not asking you to put Tim Boyle in and win a Super Bowl, but could you, with the team he's on, could you at least try to make the playoffs?
Yeah,
Like
that's
at least coach your squad or get a quarterback that can run your system and make the games competitive. Just
make them, yes,
competitive.
playable. Make it so you at least have an outside chance of winning. That's the thing. Dilfer and Johnson, they weren't bad quarterbacks. They just weren't all pros. They
Sure.
were guys that, I hate that term, but the whole game manager. Well, they managed it well. That's all the Jets need. When you
Yeah.
got Garrett Wilson, Brees Hall, and then what it was looking like one of the top 3 defenses in the league, you just need somebody competent. These guys are just trash.
Just don't screw it up. That's all you got to do.
But they do it week after week. And it's not necessarily just turnovers, it's because it's always 1st and 10, 2nd and 10, 2nd and 15, 3rd and 12. Then they run a draw, then they punt. It doesn't even look like football. It looks like they're going out there expecting to lose. And I can understand that their defense is about ready to start murdering people in the locker room.
Yeah.
I get tired of it too. And I wouldn't blame it on the players. They can't help it. They suck. Blame it on the coaches for not bringing in anybody that could play, like Joe Flacco. He's not great, but he at least go out there and give you a shot at winning. You might only win by 3, but it's better than losing by 28.
I'm with you, man. You're preaching to the
It's so
choir here.
weird. You're right. It's got to be a curse at this point.
The playoff bound Indianapolis Colts beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 27-20. Baker Mayfield, who we talked a couple weeks ago had been playing well, did not look so good in this one, only 14 fantasy points. Rashad White was fine with 12, and Mike Evans did Mike Evans things, 2 touchdowns for him. Nice game. Rashad White was so close to a monster game. I don't know how much of this game you watched, but I started Rashad White in the once and done. And Mike Evans catches the ball and gets tackled on the 1 yard line. And I'm like, all right, here we go. Rashad White. Nope. Did not give it to him. Next play. Nope. Did not give it to him from the 1. I'm like, all right, well, that happens. What do you know? They end up on the 1 yard line again. All right, buddy, let's do it. Did not give it to Rashad White. Did not give it to Rashad White. So twice on the 1 yard line and did not give my man the rock. And then for the Colts, Jonathan Taylor, I hope you enjoyed his 21 points because he broke his thumb. And even though he played through it, he's going to be out for a couple weeks. So that was a fun little thing we did there. And Michael Pittman secretly having a very, very nice season, regardless if it's Anthony Richardson or Gardner Minshew or whoever's throwing in the ball.
Something I took from this game was Josh Downs. We had talked about, I forget who it was last week, somebody that had a billion targets. I was in Joku, 15 targets with like 6 points. Josh Downs, 13 targets, 6.8 points. How does that happen?
Only 5 catches.
5 catches, eight incompletions. The stash just not that good.
Oh, but he's fun. He's fun to watch.
He is. I love.
He's fired. Guess what? What could he do on the Jets? There's your guy.
Dude, they could have.
That's all you need.
They could have traded for Josh Dobbs. Now he sucked this week, but generally speaking, this year he's had a good year. Anything would be better than the trash they're putting out on a weekly basis.
Yeah, but think about who Josh Dobbs is playing with also. Alexander Madison, Jordan Addison. Yeah, he's pretty good for a rookie. What if he had Garrett Wilson and Brees Hall?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's talent up there. It's just need somebody that can make an occasional play and not screw it up. But Salah, he's another one. His ass should be fired just for how much he botched this. Because he could have pulled Zach Wilson in week 3. But no, he waits till week 11 to finally pull him.
Yeah, he's Pittsburgh, they did the unthinkable. They spent like 55 games without totaling 400 total yards. Something ridiculous. They finally got it. Good for them. Najee Harris and Pat Freiermuth were the only fantasy assets worth having. Welcome back, Freiermuth. 9 catches, 120, and was his second week back from injury.
Yep.
good for him. And then Jamar Chase got 10 points for the Bengals. That's it. But most of his points came on tipped balls, like tipped in the middle of the field and just happened to fall into his arms. This
And
was an ugly game.
we discussed this last week, and now here we are digging deeper. Can you trust Jamar Chase in the once and done playoffs? Because
Okay,
I currently have him in there because I just
right. So do I. But I think I have
like
to play him
how
before. I don't know what to do.
it's a
No
conundrum.
idea what to do.
It's a conundrum.
Maybe I don't play him.
That I have him in later because if things don't improve, I may have to take him out for a dart throw. Throw Josh
Right.
Downs in. I don't feel good about it, but I need more than a lucky couple catches or a lucky BS touchdown with 27 seconds left in the game. This Browning fella is another one. How are you in the league? You're awful.
Let's say the next. I got the next game up here, the Titans and the Panthers. Let's say that Adam Thielen goes down and Jonathan Mingo steps up 2 weeks in a row. I think I play Mingo over Chase.
Depending on the matchup, you'd have to think about it. Points
Right.
are points. I don't care the name attached to it. But
Right.
right now, the name attached to the Bengals player has a horrible name attached to the guy throwing to him. And it makes it difficult to get points.
All right. The Titans beat the Panthers in what was it was these games were either blowouts or just absolute snooze fests. Which the blowouts, obviously, besides all the scoring for one team, is exciting. But other than that, it's not like it's a really good game. But Chuba Hubbard did well simply because he was the one to find the end zone and got a lot of passing work, 5 for 47 through the air. Miles Sanders is an absolute afterthought. Even though he had 15 carries, he didn't even get 30 yards. So
I
you can't
remember at the
play.
beginning of the season so mad at myself for not giving him a long-term contract last year. Thank
Yeah,
Jesus I didn't because he
yeah.
is awful.
That's I didn't see it coming either, my friend. And then for the Titans, you could probably add up all of the fantasy points from all of the offensive players, and you might not get to Derrick Henry's 20 points. And so Chuba Hubbard and Derrick Henry, that's it for this whole game, including the quarterbacks. The kickers didn't even do well.
Yeah, ugly game. Ugly
Yep.
game. Bryce Young,
Um,
we got to give him a team around him, but early portion of his career is not looking strong.
it is not. And since we're talking about ugly games, let's just go ahead and get this Giants Patriots game out of the way. Somehow the Giants won again. Is this like 2 wins in a row for the Giants? 10 to
I think
7.
so. Yeah.
Yeah, Jalen Hyatt had 5 for 109. Double digit points for him in fantasy, but that's it, except for Ramondre Stevenson on the other side of the ball. My favorite part about this game is that the Patriots had not one, but two quarterbacks get negative fantasy points.
How does that even happen? This is what I'm
That's
saying.
it.
Like, it, quarterback in the NFL has always been a difficult thing, but how has it gone to the point that like there's entire teams that can't come up with anybody that can do anything?
At the end of his rookie year, we were thinking Mac Jones might be the best quarterback in his class. And that was with Trevor Lawrence, right?
Yeah,
And you were like, I don't know. Is it maybe Mac Jones is maybe he's good? Maybe he's the
was for a
guy.
year. I
He's not the
think
guy, Kevin.
I know, but I really think he could resurrect his career if he got put on a real team.
Really?
I really do. I don't think he's awful because he showed some good play that first year and a half. But this whole New England thing is trash without Brady. This whole Belichick way of doing things from the 50s, it's just over. It's going. The aura's going. Nobody wants to go there now. Just he needs to go. Jones needs a fresh start. And Demario Douglas, thank you for getting hurt in the third quarter because I hate points.
Is he playing this week?
I don't know. Don't know. I haven't heard any updates on the guy yet.
I
I
need
already
I need
played him in the once and done, so I don't care if he plays again for the rest of his life.
that's that's fair, I guess. The Atlanta Falcons beat the New Orleans Saints 24-15 to take possession of that NFC South lead. I don't know what the Saints I don't know who the Saints are. I don't know what they're doing.
I know who they are. A decent team with another trash quarterback who once they're down in the red zone about to score, but their wonderful quarterback, my starter, my league of record, Derek Carr, throws a 90-some yard pick six. I
Dude,
would have won. I would have won 2-0 this week and be tied for my division lead. Even if that play just didn't happen, because it got me -5 points. It's unreal, my luck. You
He
want to know my
throws.
luck, buddy? Today,
Don't you start. Do you know who
just
you're
for
talking
fun
to?
today, I just started laying out my kickers for or my lineup for this week. First guy I put in, what's his name? Blake Group.
Yeah,
I'm telling you,
Groupie, I
50, it
think.
wasn't more than 15 minutes after I added him to my lineup that I read the headline that Mason Crosby brought to New Orleans Saints to try out the kick. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yep.
It's the second I highlight this guy's name, he hurts his groin, and now I got to pick a new kicker. I mean, you and I'm telling you, dude, these
It's
these owners, GMs, head coaches would probably have us rubbed out if they really knew what was going on.
You're probably right. But he still threw for 300 yards, which is so crazy to me. But Alvin Kamara and Chris Olave had 7 catches for 114. I'm pretty sure all in the first half because he ended
Yeah,
up
because he left
getting
early
hurt.
third quarter.
Yeah, what a start. And then let's unlock Bijan Robinson here. Finally, 120, 3 total yards and 2 touchdowns for him. He's the man. Let's keep doing
What
that
two
thing.
handsome fellows have been saying to do this all season long, along with about 30 million other people who
Yeah,
watch the NFL. Yet
I
the
know.
idiot who runs the team thinks it's best to give him 7 touches a game because he'd rather
I don't know,
lose.
man. Finally, we got a more exciting game: the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Houston Texans. Jags knocked them down 24-21.
I see that
Um,
field goal at the end.
yeah, banged off
Yeah,
so the
crossbar.
Texans had a chance to tie it as time expired, right?
Yeah,
And they man, they
like
brought in
a
their
58,
backup
58
kicker,
yarder right off the
back
crossbar.
off backup kicker. Yep,
Another
58
like
yards.
3 inches, it would have probably hit and went in, bounced in.
Yeah, insane. But Trevor, both quarterbacks were good, especially CJ Stroud. Once again, 30 fantasy points, another 300-yard passing day, 2 touchdowns, plus a rushing touchdown for him. ETN let you down. I told you. I don't know. We'll see how the rest of this season goes for ETN. Calvin Ridley, another really nice game for him, 589 and a score. And then Nico Collins was great. Hank Dell was great. Um, and Devin Singletary got you double digits, but man, with Damian Pierce back, I'm not sure you can trust either one of those guys. But what about Tank Dell, man? Rookie coming in, he's tiny, and I just watch him go up and get these contested catches. I'm very impressed with him.
Yeah, he can play. They were talking about him on Sirius the other day, how these small receivers at first usually can do well, but eventually as teams sort of learn what they are, what they do, that a lot of the times the smaller guys get shut down a little bit and or get hurt because they just pop them hard. Where the longevity of these rookies usually are the bigger ones. But we'll see. The guy can play. I noticed somebody, I don't remember who it was, somebody like high up, I think, in the once and done this week played Noah Brown, which I found
Interesting.
odd, seeing as how he was injured and didn't
Yeah,
play.
I didn't think he was active.
Oh, it was Ron Toothman, who had a huge week, 128.7, and he played an inactive player.
Broncos still rolling, 5 or 6 game win streak for them. Very
Five.
impressive. Cleveland with their quarterback situation, if you don't have if you're not going against a really easy defense, it's tough for me to play any of those guys. And then it was Samaje Perine. If for some reason you decided to play him because he happened to be the guy who scored a touchdown.
Yep.
But even Russell Wilson didn't really do much for you. He rushed for a score, but still the stat line wasn't there for him. Only 16 fantasy points.
No, the Browns
Uh,
are still a tough defense. They just can't score.
yeah, well, right, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like for if you want to start one of their offensive players, it's got to be a pretty cake defense that they're
Right.
going up against. And was it the Broncos second in the division? They're 6-5. I mean, they are right there in playoff contention.
And hell freezeth over. Cortland Sutton didn't score.
Yeah. Well, you're right. You're right, poor
How
guy.
did
I
that
don't.
happen?
Well, we
His
talked
second
about it.
lowest total of the year behind the Jets game.
Yeah. Well, that's all right. He's okay for a down game. He'll bounce back. He'll score again this coming week.
Most likely.
Rams come in a game that we thought was going to be a shootout. Unfortunately, only the Rams knew that because
Apparently.
they're the only ones that score a bunch of points, 37-14. Matthew Stafford, finally a good game, 4 passing touchdowns. Kyron Williams, welcome back, buddy, from injury. I did not start him in a league I have him in. I figured he's been out, ankle. Plus, I'm stacked. That team is absolutely loaded. But good grief, 16 for 143, and then 6 for 61 through the air and 2 receiving touchdowns. Ooh. Tyler Higbee, we got the other two. So if you started Cooper Cup or Puka Nakua, especially if you have both of them on the same team, I do in one of my leagues, not good for you. Tyler Murray, though, let's do it. And finally, Hollywood Brown did a little something,
Yeah.
6 for 88. We wanted more, but I guess we'll have to settle for that.
He had 12 targets. Like you and I talked during this game or right after it. The Cardinals went down the field in that first drive, hot knife through warm butter, scored.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
expecting like 35 points out of Kyler. Didn't pay. I said 19.7. I can handle that as in my throwaway week in the once and done. But we both played him, and I guess we've been better off playing Matthew Stafford.
Yes, I will never play Matthew Stafford.
Me either.
Chiefs roll to an easy win against the Raiders. Although the Raiders kept it close again, this 2 weeks in a row, they were pretty close for a good chunk of the game. They they only lost by 7 to Miami last week, I think it was. They kept it closer than I thought they were going to here until, Kansas City decided to extend the lead there. But Patrick Mahomes was fine. He hasn't really been his normal self this year. Isaiah Pacheco was a beast with 2 rushing touchdowns. And Rashee Rice, this is the game we were looking for a couple weeks ago.
Last
8 for
week. I played
Was it
him
last week?
week.
It was last week, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
Did you play him last week too?
Yeah, missed it
Yeah, he
by a
got like
week.
6 points or something.
Missed it by a week. And then for the Raiders, Jacoby Myers, who I kind of thought was left for dead with Aiden O'Connell manning the helm there in Las Vegas. He was good for you, 17 fantasy points because he scored. And then Josh Jacobs, workhorse, 20 carries on the ground plus 4 catches. So even though he didn't find the end zone, oh no, he did rush for a touchdown.
He did. Yeah, he scored.
Yeah, so you're good to go there with Jacobs. I got him in the once and done. I don't know if he's going to be a playoff guy for me or if I'm going to sneak him in a week before.
I currently have him in the playoffs.
Okay. All right. Let's see. The most exciting game for me this week, man.
I
My
think for
Eagles
anybody.
took down the Buffalo Bills 37-34. Honestly, this is one of the better games of the whole season, I think. As far as back and forth and meaningful snap after snap after snap. Jalen Hurts scored 36 fantasy points, only to be outdone by Josh Allen's 39. This was a battle, man. James Cook got 13 points on the ground. Should have been way more. Gabe Davis got 19 and a half fantasy points. Stephon Diggs was 16. You knew that the receivers and Josh Allen were going to play well, but man, James Cook, he had a touchdown down the sideline on a wheel route, just went right through his hands. Did you see that play?
I did.
Oh man, that was whew, I didn't cheer, I didn't clap. I just kind of wiped the sweat off the brow on that one, man, because that could have been big time. And then for Philly is, scoring 37 points. It was really all Jalen Hurts, 3 passes through the air, 2 rushing touchdowns for him, including the game winner. Devonta Smith had a nice game, but oh my gosh, how do you say his name? Zacchaeus, Olamide Zacchaeus, right?
Yeah, Zacchaeus.
I know Zacchaeus, but the first name trips me up. But he had a really nice catch in the end zone for his score. But it's not like you played him. And AJ Brown, even though he scored, only got to 12 points because he was only 5 for 37. They had a nice game plan for AJ Brown,
They
but
did.
Devonta Smith stepped up and Jalen Hurts, man. Here's
Generally
what I've noticed.
speaking, neither one of these teams has a defense. So yeah,
Yeah,
again, you have to wonder if the Bills even make the playoffs. The Eagles obviously are going to make it and will be 90%
it's that pass rush.
no one see. But man, they've got to find a way to play some defense because sooner or later, giving up 30 some points a game is not going to work out.
Billy just has to get to the quarterback. And you've asked me a couple times about the Eagles offense, how they were blowing teams out last year and they're not doing it this year. And I think it's Hurts. And I think he's not playing the way he did last year. He's only being himself, like the Jalen Hurts we remember, whenever he has to.
Yes, at
So
the
like
end
if
of games when they're down 3 points.
yes, Yes, and have you seen his stats when he's trailing in the fourth quarter overtime?
I have not.
He's first in the NFL in almost every statistic for quarterback rating, everything. But last year in week 7, they're up by 2. It's 3rd and 6. He would run and fight for those yards. He's not doing that this year unless he has to. So it's still there. Just man, they're making it more interesting than it needs to be.
They are. And I said it's sooner or later that we run into the wrong team the wrong week, and it
I
doesn't
know.
pan out this way where you blast a 60-yard field goal with time, going out, and it is what it is. And a few, I don't care about either of these teams. A few, again, both sides, questionable calls by the refs. I
Yeah,
sometimes,
yeah.
again, the refs in the league just they suck so bad. But again, they're a bunch of old men, whatever. Uh,
Um,
I mean, I was going to say something about Buffalo or maybe the Eagles. I don't know who I was going to say something about. It's over now, but the thought has escaped me.
well, let's go to your Ravens beating the Chargers 20-10. And this was also a pretty boring game. And of course, I benched Zay Flowers this week in one of my the season long league I haven't been, which made a lot of sense, considering he had 20 fantasy
I was so
points.
pissed off at him for not sliding. I hate brash little punks.
Well, he's a rookie. He
Still, it's a
wants his
team game,
limelight.
not a me game.
You're right.
Very
Right.
frustrating. It could have easily backfired. Not necessarily that they lose the game, but that the defense has to go back out. You never know, somebody pops an Achilles or an ACL because they seem to be popping like freaking hotcakes anymore and across the league. Just a very, very selfish play to run that in.
Yeah. Gerald Everett, a big time letdown year for him. Not that he was going to, expect him to be a great tight end or anything, but you thought he'd do more than what he's doing. He did have a nice game, 12 fantasy points there. And Keenan Allen, man, 16 targets,
He is
14
just
catches, 106. You can't stop him.
he's
I don't
just
know what you do.
do you still have him
You do.
left?
I do.
So do I.
Yeah, he's going to have to be playoffs for me. I wasn't going to, but
Oh yeah, I've got him in the playoffs.
I got to make it to the playoffs first.
Well, we both do,
And
that's correct. But theoretically, we're speaking that we make the playoffs, we both saved him.
And then arguably the worst game of the week. We got about 5 or 6 games that you could say were the worst game of the week. Probably the Giants Patriots would be the worst one, but the Monday night game, Chicago beating
It was
Minnesota
entertaining to watch though, because you never had any
12-10.
clue what the hell was going to happen next. It was such a bizarre game with the turnovers and then some long plays and just random players doing well. It was weird.
DJ Moore 11 for 114, and that's it for Chicago. The only takeaway I would get from this is how much work Roshan Johnson got over Khalil Herbert. That is interesting there. And then for the Vikings, man, TJ Hawkinson got a touchdown late, and that's it. Josh Dobbs, 4 points for him. And then you and I talked earlier about how I started Jordan Addison in the once and done, which was the right call, uh, except
If
it wasn't.
yeah,
Because the great call if I don't missed out on probably 20 fantasy points
yeah, a
on a
50
couple
yarder
3
that
plays or
barely
so.
hit the turf that maybe didn't. Another that did you go back and watch the play on the
Yeah, I don't
sideline
want to talk.
yet?
I don't want to talk about it.
I'm telling you, but did you at
I
least
know.
go watch
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. It looks like
Nobody.
he's never played football.
Yeah, like just out there playing pitch and catch with his dad or something. But both toes, big toe on both foot hit the sideline. Otherwise, it was a do backflips into the end zone from the 15-yard line.
And one of Dobbs's interceptions was because of an Addison drop.
Yes.
So if he came down with that, there's some more fantasy points for you
And
also.
yeah, you picked a good week to play him. He just sort of, lack of a better term, just sort of shit the bed.
Well,
I had
there's
the
my
opportunities and just
and
didn't.
there's my okay, Kevin. I'll take your bad luck and I'll raise you Jordan Addison looking
Yeah,
like he's never played football before.
it wasn't pretty, but I still got my Quentin Johnston and my Tyler
Oh,
Boyd,
yeah.
so I can only feel so
Good.
bad for you.
That's good. All right, man. You ready to go to the starts of the week?
Sure.
All right, quarterback. I'm going first this week.
Are we
How about
picking
my
the
guy?
same person?
I don't know. Are you picking Russell Wilson?
No, I'm not. I'm picking Tua.
Well, I was listen when I tried to pick Tua last week or 2 weeks ago. You told me I can't because everyone's starting Tua anyway. But for us, Houston just gave up
I think it
364
was
yards to
deeper
Trevor
than that. I
Lawrence.
think it was deeper than just picking Tua. It was deeper.
Whatever. They're also Houston is also the sixth worst defense against fantasy football quarterbacks over the last 4 weeks, and the Houston offense should be able to move the ball and keep this game interesting. So I think Russ is going to have to work to get his team a win this week.
Oh, yeah, and Denver's on the road, correct?
That's correct. Yep.
I picked
So
Tua, and typically I wouldn't pick Tua because you're right. He is somebody that pretty much if he's on your team, you're starting him unless you're in one of those fancy 8 or 10 team leagues that it's never ending all pros on every team. But his last 3 games, 12, 17, and 4 points. He's not exactly been lighting it up. So if you're looking for a team to help you out, how about the Commanders? They are
yes,
awful. They just gave up 45 to Dallas, and it should have been 75. So if you're looking for a comeback game, this is the one to do it.
this is a little sketchy though, my friend, because if you put two out there and this trend continues, he could sink your year. I mean, we're closing in those fantasy playoffs where you
We're
need
good.
these
I'm feeling
these
good, buddy.
performances.
I'm feeling good. Don't
Okay.
you worry about me.
Running back for me, I'm pointing Kevin Reynolds, and I'm just saying Pittsburgh running backs. But I would probably
Yes.
find out who is named the starter and then play the other guy. Because
Yes.
this was the first week that Jalen Warren was the starter and Najee was the guy.
Just didn't get as many carries once he lost that fumble. He didn't play as much as he usually does.
Yeah, so again, apparently the backup's the guy to start there. Plus, Arizona has been terrible against fantasy running backs all season long.
I picked Mr. Pollard because he's playing the Seahawks, the absolute worst rushing defense in the league. Yes,
3
going
weeks in a
for
row.
3 games in a row. And if you really had to pick somebody else, I picked Bijan because the Jets, as great as their pass defense is, their rush defense is not. They've given up the 4th most points to running backs the last 4 weeks. So why not roll with the hot hand down there? Of course, more on Arthur Smith will probably give him 5 touches this week.
I'm pretty sure that if Tony Pollard, this will be his third game of in a row if he does well. I'm pretty sure he'll be on fire. I think them's the rules, right? You ever play NBA Jam back in the
I
day?
did play. I mean, I played a lot of it.
Oh. Third one in a row, man. He's on
Yeah.
fire. All right, wide receiver for me. I mentioned this guy earlier, Michael Pittman Jr. This guy has 6 straight games with double-digit fantasy points, and the Tennessee Titans have been a little bit better against wide receivers over the last few weeks, but they are still a team to target. And he's quietly having a really nice year. I know I said
Yes.
that earlier, but
Yes. I haven't
you
really
never
good.
hear his name, but he's just consistently doing good stuff.
He's been
He's
great
Portland
except for the
Sutton.
week I played him. But I picked Mr. Chris Olave going if he plays. If he gets clear concussion wise, they're going up against Detroit, who's given up by far the most fantasy points to wide receivers the last 4 weeks. So let's go with Olave. It'd be even better if Derek Carr sits, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Yes, no, for sure. Bring in Jameis.
Absolutely.
This is
Slang it.
This feels like my fourth or fifth time picking Dalton Schultz as my tight end start of the week. But he
He
threw up
had
a big time dud last week.
two
Dude,
targets.
yeah,
Two
but
targets.
Denver gives up the second most points to tight ends over the last 4 weeks. And Patrick Surtain is, if I had to guess, I'd say they're going to stick him on Nico Collins. Maybe he'll stay on his side of the field. He's not going to shadow Tank Dell. That's not his game as little speedy receivers. But with that, if he does decide to shadow Nico, man, CJ Stroud's going to need to look Schultz's
I'm
way a
worried
lot.
about Schultz though. Last 3 weeks, 6, 3, and 2 targets. And the 3 was before Brevin Jordan even came back. I was thinking about Schultz being my replacement for Mark Andrews in the playoffs, but now I've got to wonder, is he going to have 1 catch for 7 yards? It's hard to
Oh,
put
if
up
you got
stats if they don't even throw to you.
playing this week,
Very, very
Denver, man.
disappointing. I did not pick him. I picked Laporta. He's been very roller coastery, but the Saints give up the most points to tight ends the last 4 weeks. So why not go with Mr. Laporta?
And for my defense, Atlanta is playing Tim Boyle. So let's go Falcons.
For my defense, Atlanta's playing Mr. Timboya. So
That's
go Falcons defense.
it's simple. No more words need be said.
It was as soon as I saw it, boom, that's my guy. Matter of fact, I started putting through my defenses for the playoffs, and I just like
Playing the Jets.
I'm just looking at the Jets schedule.
Yep.
Jets and
There we go.
Giants.
That's it. Hey, last week or 2 weeks ago, I said whoever's played New York,
Yeah. What a
any New
mess
York team.
that's all because again, how do these teams let their whole seasons go away just because they lose their quarterback? and not just lose, but just get embarrassed week after week. Although the Giants are on a 2-game win streak somehow, but they did play the fourth and second worst teams in the league. I think the Commanders are fourth or fifth worst record now.
And they couldn't play themselves, so
Who's
they
your
got.
kicker this week?
Oh, I don't know.
It's not going to be Group because I jinxed him into a groin injury.
But who's your kicker? Let me look.
I actually then decided randomly to pick Chase McLaughlin.
Who's he kicked for?
I think the Browns.
Oh my gosh. Give me Young Wei Koo.
Oh no, he
Atlanta's
kicks for
going.
Tampa Bay. Sorry.
Okay.
I think they're. I don't even know
They're
who they're.
playing the Panthers. Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah,
Playing the
and
Panthers.
at home. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll go. Oh no, I don't want to play Young Wei Koo because they're playing in New York. That's a weather game. I don't like that. Let's go Riley Patterson for the Lions. They're playing at New Orleans, so even though it's a road game, it's still indoors. So
Yes.
Riley
Yeah.
Patterson's the call
For
here.
those you fantasy people out there who listen to anything we say, this time of year you got to check the weather because it can be drastically altering of outcomes of games, especially kickers.
All right. So before we get out of here, I wanted to tell you something. Just the other night, I had boss lady. We sat down, and I said, "Hey, I got a show for you to watch. See if you like it." And we are currently on episode 4 of The Blacklist.
Oh, very good. Now I
Yeah,
got to
she
tell you,
likes it. She's in.
you've got to really buy into it at first, but once you do, you'll never want to stop. But it's long, dude, because it's 10 seasons that
It's
are
like
most
20
of the seasons
seasons
are
an episode.
22 episodes per
28,
season.
yeah.
So and they're about 46 minutes long. So you got a lot of viewing ahead of you. But boy, that Raymond Reddington, he is dreamy.
I love him.
He
So
is
great.
something else.
All right. Anything else for you, sir?
I think I'm pretty good, buddy. It's go time here. 2 weeks left in most leagues, the regular seasons. So
Right.
time to get after it.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Be sure to check us out. Get Your Bell on Football Podcast, Facebook, YouTube, and Spotify. Kevin, I'm out. We'll see you in a week.
See ya.